Two quick tips to help you qualify for a mortgage even faster. 1. Set up a sole trader or limited liability company so that your side hustle income can be legitimized. That way you increase your income threshold. 2. Don't take on any additional debts around the time that you plan to purchase a property, like take out a car loan or take out a carnival loan or whatever kind of loan you plan to take out, so that your debt service level remains low. So by increasing income, reducing debts, you could qualify for more. Two quick tips to help you qualify for a mortgage even faster. 1. Set up a sole trader or limited liability company so that your side hustle income can be legitimized. That way you increase your income threshold. 2. Don't take on any additional debts around the time that you plan to purchase a property, like take out a car loan or take out a carnival loan or whatever kind of loan you plan to take out, so that your debt service level remains low. So by increasing income, reducing debts, you could qualify for more. Here again, Smart Money team. Now, we often come across persons who might think they're a bit too old to invest in real estate because the repayment time is a lot shorter in your advanced years than if you invested if you're younger. But one of the ways to overcome that is to leverage other people's youth. So you can invest along with a sibling or maybe even one of your children to help increase that repayment period and to make the payments more manageable. And a more sophisticated version of that is forming a real estate syndicate, as we have done here at Zero. And essentially what we do is we leverage people's money through crowdfunding, where people put small sums of money together in order to buy a property. Now, if that sounds interesting to you and you want to get started in a real estate investing journey, get in touch with us today. So real estate agents often get a bad rap, but the number one reason why I think you should work with a real estate agent when buying your next property is that a real estate agent will ensure that all the paperwork is lined up, and so you don't end up with any sad stories. And I'm sure we all know somebody who didn't use an agent and bought a property and end up in misery. Also, not all agents are created equal, so make sure you have a good agent supporting you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hilary and I'm your host for today. Just a few housekeeping rules. We are asking the Zoom as well. You can feel free to put on your video if you want to. So allow me to start by saying that it's an honor for me to address this gathering, and I wish to thank Zero Business Group for making this opportunity possible for us all. Thank you for everyone for being here. and we are super happy to start the investment division. Congratulations on your first step into the investment journey. We do hope that the information you receive here today will prove beneficial to you all. I will now start by introducing Mr. Belfort. Ronaldo Belfort is a co-founder and managing director of Zero Business Group, which is a fast-growing full-service real estate company based in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Belfort is a recipient of an MPhil from UWI and has received several fellowships and grants from governments and international organizations, including Canada, USA, and Germany, to name a few. Apart from his passion for business and environmental science, Mr. Belfort is an avid sportsman and a fan of sports. Mr. Belfort, you can proceed.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, I should say. And good night to those people who might be abroad in foreign locations. I see a few people. I see my Aunt Gloria on the Zoom. Hope you're doing okay in New York. And I see quite a few people that I know quite well. And it's really, really heartening to be amongst people who share the same vision that I do. And that is one of, I guess, fulfilling or true potential, because I often find that as persons primarily based in Trinidad and Tobago, discussions around finance and money is not something that we typically grow up on. And I'm glad to see that we're finally changing things around. So as Yulani said, I'd just like to echo her statements. I want to thank you for taking the time out to even just listen to our presentation today. Even that is just a first step in your investment journey. And I hope and pray that something that we discussed here today would be meaningful and that you will find beneficial for you going forward, especially with the launch of this investment division. Now, this has been something a long time in the making. Zero Business Group has been in existence since 2015. We have been registered with the FIU. We've been registered brokers with the Association of Real Estate Agents, which is, I guess, our primary business. We do brokerage on houses and properties. So if you want to buy a dream home, hit us up. But I must say that investing is one of my major passions, probably even a bigger passion than brokerage. And so it's really heartening to launch this investment division today, because I honestly believe that investing and what we're going to talk about today, which is a type of investing called group economics, is nothing that is foreign to us. It's just something that we as a culture do not practice very often. But I often like to remind persons that the ideas behind group economics are rooted in our cultures going back thousands of years, from prehistoric civilizations in Asia and Africa. The idea of group economics is one that we, I guess, not learning, but relearning. And so I'm excited for us to get started on this journey here today. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm going to dive into our presentation. And just to lay it out for you, our presentation will be in a bit of two parts. In the first part, we're going to have a general discussion about the investment division, how it will be structured, how it will be governed, and how you can get involved in that. And it's not just going to be I'm talking and you're listening to the presentation. We welcome feedback at various points in the presentation. So I will be asking questions, so make sure that you're paying attention. And on top of that, during the little break between the two aspects of the presentation, we're actually going to have a little poll, and we're going to have prizes for those persons who actually answer some of the questions related to investing that we're going to ask in the polls. So I think we have, Yolani could inform me, I think we have 3 to 5 prizes lined up. So I can tell you now that they ebooks surrounding the world of investing. Things like ebook for The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. These are books that have really shaped my mental of honor for us to share those with you. So, like I said, pay attention, and you may be one of the lucky winners of these prizes here this evening. All right, and the final aspect, I guess it's the second half, sorry, of the presentation. We're actually going to delve into one of the investment proposals that we're actually working on. This is a real life investment proposal. We're actually in discussions right now to with the owner of the property, the vendors, to purchase it. And fingers crossed, this might be actually our first investment opportunity that we're going to go after. So we're going to go through that, and we're actually going to have a full-on question and answer session where persons could ask their questions and hopefully could provide some answers for everyone. So be sure to have all the questions ready, and I imagine that we're going to have quite a few questions. So my presentations won't be very long at all, because I'm really excited to hear what you have to say and what advice you have to give concerning this investment opportunities that we're going to look into. All right, so with that, I'm going to pull up the presentation slides. But before I do, just please bear with me in a quick word of prayer. Our God and Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you this holy and precious name. Father, you created the heavens and the earth. You have created all that is within it, dear God. Father, we give thanks for you have blessed us so generously, dear Father, beyond what we deserve, dear God. Father, we pray that you forgive us of our sins because of all our unrighteousness, Father. Father, as we gather to discuss these matters this evening, we pray that you bless each and every one of us in a very special way, dear God. We pray that you open our minds. We pray that you grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in understanding these financial matters, dear Father. And Father, we pray that we always keep sight on the fact that the true prize is in your kingdom, dear God, and not of earthly countenance, dear God. Father, we pray that you bless us, guide us, and protect us. In your Son, Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. All right. So with that, let me pull up. So I'll be speaking from this mic this camera that you're seeing here. But I'm actually going to share my screen on my laptop, so you'll be seeing the presentation as I am seeing it. So let me see if I can do that. Share song. Just bear with me 1 second. There it is. All right, so is everyone seeing the screen? You can answer or give me a thumbs up if you are. All right, again, 1 thumbs up. Sabrina Robley saying yes. I hope this is not one of those Zooms where people are free to answer feel free to turn on your mics and answer, folks. You know, if you're needed, we'll have to turn on the camera. All right. So why am I getting that sound? Just bear with me a little bit, folks. All right, so we're ready to go. So the Zero Investment Division. Again, welcome to the launch of our investment division. I'm Ronaldo Belfort, and I'm going to go into the broad strokes of what we're going to do. And in my humble opinion, this is a great day because there is no other formal investing platform like this that I know of in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm pleased that we're all here to be trailblazers, and I'm confident that we're going to do something really, really special going forward. All right, so a bit about Zero Business Group. Zero, it's an integrated company. So we have 3 different divisions. So we have the investment division, which we're launching today. But apart from that, we also have a media division. Now, the media division is headed up by Yulani Fletcher. So she's the one responsible for all the little smart money tips and smart money clips, all the videos that you've been getting, telling you about how to invest in real estate, how to optimize your taxes, how to deal with insurance. That comes out of our media division. And we also have the brokerage and property management division, where we handle a lot of sales of property. We help people buy property, we help people sell property. And of course, if you're interested in buying or selling property, please hit us up, or even renting an apartment. We do a full service, so feel free to hit us up at 757-2476. All right. All right. So I am only one part of Zero, but I guarantee you that this will not be possible without my team. So there's a team behind me in the background, some of them literally in the background. So there's myself, the other co-founder, James Hunt, who is the director and the IT officer. So he's the guy who creates all our websites and that sort of thing. So he actually has his own IT company. So if you're interested in getting a website, hit him up, James Hunt at Flagship. We also have the wonderfully talented Zach Morrison, who is our AV coordinator, who was recently promoted to audiovisual coordinator. So he shoots all the videos that you see and edits most of them, of all the property listings. There's also Yulani Fletcher, who you would have seen earlier, who is our marketing strategist and comes up with all the video concepts and the text and image concepts. Right? A couple of people that were also not mentioned in this slide is Carrie Murray, who is our compliance officer. So all the paperwork that the government has us filling out, she handles all of that. Because trust me, I couldn't handle it because there's a lot of paperwork. And there's also Keisha, who is one of our assistants helping us out in the background as well. So this is our team. This is Zero Business Group. All right. So what we're essentially doing in forming the investment division, what we're offering is a formalized real estate syndication. Now, as I said, this will be a somewhat interactive session. So without Googling the answer, can anyone care to guess what is a real estate syndication? So feel free to turn on your mics, give me an answer, or you could put it in the chat if you're shy. But I prefer an answer. Anyone could guess what a real estate syndication is. Please don't Google it, I will know.
A group of people.
I hear someone trying to talk, but they're not coming through clearly.
Hello, you hearing me now?
Right, I'm hearing you. And who is this?
Liam, Quan Cap.
Liam, yes, man. You often respond to a lot of our messages on social media, man.
Yeah, well, I would assume it's a group of people that coming together to invest and thing, you know? They're coming
Right.
together to uplift or to do, you know, a syndication, something like a syndicate. And a syndicate is a group of
Right.
supervillains. So, you know, supervillains are masterminds. So we are a group of masterminds coming together to produce the plan and take over the world. You understand? Syndicate, syndication. Exactly.
All right. I think that answer was a lot more than I bargained for. So I'm not a super villain, but I think that was a great answer. I also see we have some chats here. I see Alicia Joseph saying a group of like-minded people who have banded together to achieve some specified goal or to be stronger together. Tiffany Phillips clarifying to purchase a property. Right. So I think that you're all on the right page up until the supervillain part. But I guess we are trying to take over the world just economically, not putting people in bondage. So a real estate syndication, what answer do I have? I actually have a video on it. So the short answer is this is when a group of people pool their resources and expertise to invest in real estate. Now, a couple things about that. One word that I want to highlight is resources. Yes, a real estate venture can potentially be very profitable, but I'm not in the business of making guarantees that are impossible. So a lot of people, especially in recent times, have been talking about invest in this and get some ridiculous return in no time at all. But if you're interested in that kind of get rich quick scheme, this is not the place for you. All right. What we espouse here is rational, safe investments that could long term lead to profitable returns. I honestly don't believe in getting rich overnight. I don't think it's possible, at least legitimately. And in fact, the Bible tells us in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 2. No, I could be wrong, but I believe it's in Proverbs that it's actually better to get rich slowly. All right. So just one of the interesting nuggets on financial wisdom that you get from scripture. So this is not a get rich quick scheme. I'm not guaranteeing you that you're going to get rich overnight. In fact, there are no guarantees in this. As a responsible, business owner, I must inform you that when investing, your capital is at risk. There's always the potential that you lose your entire capital. That said, I will endeavor to the best of my ability to ensure that you do not lose your capital, and in fact, that you will get a profitable return. All right. But I just need to put that disclaimer in so that everyone is aware of what it is they're getting into, that this is not a magic bullet. This is not some overnight scheme that will make you an instant millionaire. The second part of it is that we also will look at person's expertise. Now, different investment opportunities in real estate would appeal to persons with different skills and will also require persons of different skills. to be involved. So one type of investment property may call for persons with some kind of expertise in structural design, some with a flair for landscaping, that sort of thing. So in structuring the real estate syndicates, we're not only looking for resources, but we'll also be looking at fit. So to look at your interest to see if you're a good match for one of the properties that we're going to go after, which we're going to go into detail in soon. All right. So I just wanted to make that clear. All right. So you might be asking yourself, why invest with us? Why invest in real estate at all? And so there are a few great answers. One is the potential returns are quite good. Now, it's often said that real estate prices only go up. That is not necessarily true, but I can understand where that truth comes from. But by and large, over extended periods of time, real estate is one of the most secure investments and asset classes around. As opposed to the stock market, for example, which we also dabble in, which you get quite a lot of fluctuations. Real estate is more slow and steady. It's like a big truck going on the road as opposed to a Ferrari. It's something that trucks along, and I think would be a good part of the investment portfolio. Another reason why you should invest with us, particularly speaking about Zero Business Group, is that we're an integrated company, as I indicated before. So because we are real estate brokers, we are aware of deals way before the average person might hear about before it's listed. So months, sometimes years in advance. So the deal flow, the potential deal flow, that conveyor belt of deal flow is a lot higher than with the average man on the streets. And so that's a great reason why you should invest with somebody who already has a foot in the industry. All right. Another reason why we do consultations and in-depth analysis of all the potential deals that we're going to go into. As you would see later on in the presentation, we're actually going to go through how we structure a deal, how we're going to look into it, how we're going to look at the finances, how we're going to look at the communities, look at the pros and the cons, and the potential economic returns. So you can see for yourself how we structure it. So it's not a fly-by-night operation. It takes weeks, sometimes months, to properly analyze a property. And I hope you'll appreciate the amount of work that the team puts into each investment opportunity, which a lot of times may not work out, because as some of you would know who work with us and have worked with us in the past, we walk away from deals sometimes when we do not, if it doesn't pass the smell test before due diligence suggests that all is not right. And I'll be quite frank, in Trinidad and Tobago, you need to be very careful when investing in real estate. You need to have someone with experience on your side to ensure that you don't end up in trouble. Because I've seen scenarios where people have bought properties cash without any approvals and now trying to sell the property, they're in problems. Or they buy property from someone who is not the owner. And that can end up in court very, very, very easily. And it could end up with a cutlass as well, because we know our culture. But our due diligence process helps ensure that you don't, and we don't run into any of those types of issues. Right. So location, location, location. The three most important words in real estate. So as some of you may know, we're primarily based in Tobago. And so we're primarily looking at Tobago as our investment venues, but we're also starting to branch off in Trinidad. And so we've started to look at deals in Trinidad also. And we think in the medium to long term, we could actually start looking at deals overseas. And I can tell you that I'm really, really excited about that. Particularly, we've done some reconnaissance trips abroad already, at potential real estate markets, both in USA and in Guyana. And I think in particular that Guyana is poised for an economic boom, the likes of which that country has never seen before. And I think now may be a great opportunity to get in on the ground floor in Guyana before, before prices skyrocket. So we're actively working towards that, but we're not going to rush ahead too much. We're going to take our time, baby steps, as the Bible says, get rich slow. But that is our long-term goals, looking at overseas investments as well. And I'm sure that some of you will be interested in earning returns in US dollars as opposed to TT dollars, which is going in the wrong direction right now. All right. Right, so a bit about the structure that we're going to use. All right, skipping ahead too much. Okay, so what we plan to do is that whenever we come across a property, if something comes across my desk that I think is interesting, and we're going to start putting the machinery into work to go after that property, our plan is to create a holding company when the time is right to purchase that property. So let's say we look at 8 properties and 8 that are looking good. We have 8 separate holding companies being formed, and you as an investor will have the opportunity to purchase shares or equity stake in whatever opportunity that most interests you. If you like the property that we're looking at in Toco, you could invest in that, as opposed to the one in San Fernando or in Cedros or in Scarborough, what have you. So you will have that option to choose exactly where your money goes. And the structure that we're going to use is we're going to allocate both Class A and Class B shares. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with stock trading and stock investing, so you know a bit about Class A and Class B shares, but just indulge me a bit. Class A and Class B shares will be equally weighted in terms of equity, but they differ in terms of their voting rights. What that means is that as you, as an average man, you just want some passive income, you could buy Class B shares, which will ensure that you have, let's say you want the equivalent of a 10% stake in that investment opportunity. You can buy that set proportion of shares and you'll be issued Class B shares. Now, the Class A shares will be reserved for the management team who manages that holding company, that manages that property. And Class A shares, despite the name being called Class A, not necessarily better. What it means is that as a Class A shareholder, you have more voting rights when it comes to decision making, but ultimately you do not get paid unless the venture is profitable. So how it works is that, let's say we go into an investment and the investment gets a 10% return of, let's say, $50,000. All the Class B shareholders will be paid first, but only if that venture is profitable will Class A shareholders and the management team get a cut. So if the venture is unprofitable or even breaks even, it ensures that you get back your money or as much as your money that is on the table, and the Class A shares, well, you ain't getting nothing. So it's a way to incentivize the management team to act in your and the company's best interest. So essentially, unless the venture is profitable, the management does not get paid. All right. And I'm sure you guys might have some questions about the share structure soon. All right, let's get some water. All right. So, to delve in a bit about how the holding companies for each investment opportunity will be governed. One, we have different layers of governance. One will be through the investor agreements and company bylaws that we create. So we've already had a template in place for the investor agreements. that I guess we could share if you're interested later on to see what it entails. And we paid quite a lot of money to some lawyers just to get these agreements in place beforehand. But I think it's an investment that will, give everyone some peace of mind on how the companies will be governed and that your interest will also be protected. Now, to offer shares in Trinidad and Tobago or securities, it has to be regulated by the Security and Exchanges Commission, the SEC, right? So the SEC or the Security and Exchange Commission, they have different types of classifications on types of security holders. Quick question. Has anybody, and feel free to answer in the chat or on the mic, has anyone on the chat have they ever invested in the local stock exchange or even in foreign stock exchange? And what did that process of signing up entail? Can anyone tell me a bit about the experience? Anybody? Okay. Someone trying to talk?
We have a real shy audience today, boy. Well,
Clearly.
in terms of local investment fee, fees are actually getting better in Trinidad. Trinidad Stock Exchange has launched some new things to make buying local stocks more easier. Well, more easier, not more. And yeah, it's kind of streamlined it now where you can buy it online, and it makes it much less. In terms of signing up for a brokerage account, that is actually a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of forms. It takes a little while. I think like 3 days of paperwork. When I did it. But in terms of the actual buying and selling of the stocks in Trinidad, it's no longer as complicated as it used to be with the new system they put in place with the online, right? You can do everything online now. So I feel like that's improving. In terms of investing in foreign, that is always a problem with foreign exchange and whatnot. Unless you want to pay those exorbitant prices to convert TT to US. But yeah, that's from my experience on this end.
Okay. Well, I actually learned something there. I was not aware that the online trading platform for the TTSC, I didn't realize that it was functional. Because up until last week, I was talking to a TTSC broker, and it didn't seem like it was functional just yet.
Serious? When you mean online, what is the level of online? Now, when I say online, I mean the level of online where it's a trading app, but you are able to easily buy the stocks online as well as sell them. They have a system in place. Yeah, they have a system in place. So it's not like you trade in like in the forex market or the stock market, like how you trade like on your phone with all these nice apps we have these days. That is still we still leagues away from that. However, there's a more manual analog online system. I should say semi online, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll actually look into that. I'll call the SEC to get some information because it's high time I think that we get online to an app. Because to trade on the TTSEC, at least with my booker, you still have to call, make sure they put in your order, remind them 2 days later. Oh gosh, I forget, and you remind them again. But I'll look into that.
Okay, well, that bacchanal there. All that was to say. That is not it again. It's a nice online process where you just buy it online and the persons organize it in the background for you. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. All right, so I have homework to do. All right, so all that was to say is that the Security and Exchanges Commission, they have different regulations if you have a publicly listed company or if you have a private listing. And so the little we call a table to the bottom of the screen, if you're seeing it, lists some of the difference between a publicly traded company like Prestige Holdings, who owns KFC, which stock is down like 30% by the way, which might be a good opportunity to buy, and a limited offering, which is what we are going to do. So I'm just going to go through some of the differences. And by the way, this clipping of the document was taken directly from the TTSEC website. And so you could feel free to check it out. There's a lot of great information there. All right. And so some of the similarities and some of the differences, let me focus on the differences. One of the most important differences is that with a private listing, which we are going to launch, what we're launching today, is you could only have 35 investors per holding company, as opposed to an unlimited amount with a publicly traded company. All right, so the maximum is 35, so it's a small group. Now, as we will see later on in the investment analysis, the way to calculate, I guess, the minimum investment that we're going to look at is the minimum investment for each of our opportunities will be the price of the property divided by 35. So that will give you a rough idea of what the minimum investment on each opportunity will look like. So whether it's 500,000 divided by 35, I think that's about $13,000 or $14,000 or so. So that is how we're going to, in broad strokes, handle the issuing of shares when we buying a property. Next is how the shares are going to be issued and how they're going to be traded. Now, on the local stock exchange, you can buy and sell shares all the time as quickly as the system allows. But with a limited offering like this, is not meant to be that sort of arrangement. In fact, there are some restrictions on the shares. So once you buy a share, you can sell it, but it's not designed to be something where investors buy and sell shares all the time. It's, in exceptional circumstances, you could sell shares in whatever holding company you have, but it's not a high frequency sort of trading arrangement. Also, it cannot be advertised. You see the second to last line. A registered security can advertise, and a limited offering can not advertise. Now, personally, I think that is archaic legislation. The US has moved on from this about 8 or 10 years ago, but it's still on all our books. So I guess one of the, I guess you could call it a drawback, is that we cannot advertise investing opportunities. We could only use word of mouth, or as we're going to have a Patreon service, which will be very, very affordable to get around that thing of not advertising. All right. And is the company or the security required to be registered with the TTSEC? It says no, but in actuality, you still have to inform the SEC that you are offering shares. So unlike with a publicly listed company where you have to give them regular updates like every quarter on who are the shareholders, with a limited offering like what we're going to do, you just need to notify the SEC that you exist and we're going to offer this, and this is how we're going to do it. So it's just more of a courtesy than a no. So I guess it should be an asterisk there next to that no. All right. So that is how we're going to be structured and governed, and of course following the SEC rules. Right. So moving on. So this is just a quick rundown of how the steps that we're going to use in purchasing a property and issuing shares to shareholders. The first step, the most important step, where dreams die, is the due diligence period, where we investigate the property, make sure the owner or the person claiming to be the owner is the legitimate owner, and that there are no liens on the property, meaning that it's not tied up with a mortgage or some battle in court of people arguing over ownership. All right, and once we get that clear, we're going to move on to step 2. But I must tell you that in investing and in successful investing, what is important is not so much how often you say yes, but how often you say no. And that is something that people don't often teach you, is that before you choose one deal, I think you should analyze 50 to 100 to ensure that it makes financial sense and everything lines up before you pull the trigger. You know, sometimes we have some money in the pocket and we're just itching to buy something and we're ready to pull the trigger. We just pull the trigger on whatever comes up, and then we regret it after, and we have buyer's remorse, and you end up with some crappy property. To me, to be a good long-term investor, you have to be able to say the word no and have discipline. So it's not, I don't envision that we're going to have tons and tons of properties and tons of potential holding companies being formed, but we're going to take our time and wait until good to great opportunities come before we pull the trigger. Again, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's not get rich overnight, but I think that it's a way to protect yourselves from huge losses in the future. All right. So moving on is to get purchase agreements signed up, and that is something that we're all too familiar with in our role as real estate brokers. And that is where, then moving on to step 3, where we will have persons signing, once you investigate the property, look at our investment proposals reports and are satisfied, you can then commit funds to the purchase of that property and sign a shareholders agreement to ensure that your seat at the table is secure. All right. And like I said, we already have some drafts prepared. And from there, once we close on the property, we will disburse the shares in the holding company, and we'll have to keep a ledger on who are the shareholders. And I guess from there, then the final step is ongoing management. Now, depending on the type of property, you will need some level of management, whether it's active management, like if it's a hotel or a apartment complex, or even if it's raw land, which requires very little management, there needs to be some sort of ongoing management. And our goal is to focus on income producing properties, which can help pay for themselves. And I guess the golden scenario is that you have a property that not only appreciates in value, so it increases in value in the 3 to 5 year holding period that we're envisioning, but also brings in income. So it's not dead money just parking and waiting. So the idea is to have cash flow coming in from the property, plus having the property appreciate in value. So that is the, I guess, the golden standard that we are working towards, and that is what we're going to be screening for. All right, but again, we're going to touch on our investment proposal soon, so you can see one of the potential deals we're looking at. All right, so moving on. All right, so how to access deals with us. Now, what we're going to do is that, because, as we said, the SEC does not allow us to advertise the investment opportunities, what we're going to do is that we're going to invite persons to become a part of our Patreon. Now, a Patreon is a platform which allows closer interaction between content creators and the public, and in this case, business owners. And so it will help us create a community of like-minded persons to discuss investment opportunities, and eventually, when we see an opportunity that we like, we're going to pull the trigger on it. And the idea behind it is that, to be frank, there's not many people who are interested in investing in finance, especially young people. And I think it's important to form what's the word I'm looking for? A critical mass of persons interested in that sort of thing locally, in order for us to be truly impactful. And I think Patreon will be a platform for us to manage that. Now, as some of you may know, there is a cost attached to Patreon, but I'm here to tell you that the cost is not prohibitive. We're looking at, to start with, the measly sum of $1 per month. Right? Now, I have come to the realization a long time ago that investing and business is not for everyone. And persons may kick a fuss about joining a Patreon, for example, because they say, oh, well, I paid for that. But really and truly, persons, they buy Netflix, they buy all kind of toys for the children, they buy all kind of clothes that they're not going to wear this time next year. But to me, it's all about where you see value and where you see yourself going. So I'm at the stage in my life right now where I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be begging anyone to make an investment in themselves. If you see value in what we provide, and if you see potential, and you are interested in investing in yourself, I leave that to you, and I encourage you to do so. Because the potential returns at the lowest Patreon tier, because we're going to have different tiers of $1 per month, the potential returns are insignificant. In fact, it's quite laughable what you get in return relative to what you put out. So just to touch on what we'll be providing to all the Patreons, not only insider access to all the deals that we'll be doing, but as some of you may know, we have an active smart money tip program where every Monday, sometimes it's a Tuesday, if I wake up late Monday, we provide financial tips covering the span of real estate, business, finance, life insurance, you. And so as a Patreon, you'll have access to all that information and extended information way beyond what we provide for free to the public. We're also going to be revamping our Finance Friday program, where we'll be doing analyses of different companies. So I mentioned Prestige Holdings shortly, some time ago, which is a company that we're quite interested in investing in. And so we're going to revamp the Finance Fridays, where we're going to do a deep analysis of the company, not just looking at stock price, because stock price by itself is meaningless, but you need to look at the price to earning ratios. You need to look at the free cash flow generated. You need to look at the current ratio, which is the current assets over current liabilities. And so if you're interested in learning how to invest from a disciplined value investor standpoint, not only in real estate, but also in the stock market, I think that will be a great opportunity for you to also learn more about it. I know a lot of people are clamoring for the the stock investing and stock trading course that we've been working on for a while, but all of that will be coming soon. And as a Patreon, you will have privileged access to that trading, stock trading course. And I can tell you in some good news on that, we finally found a broker that will allow persons from Trinidad and Tobago to buy stocks. Because as some of you may know, we were blacklisted by a lot of European countries recently for ridiculous reasons. And so we're not allowed to partake on international brokerages, but we just found one that will allow us to start trading. I personally have started about a week ago. So far, so good. It's not the best platform in the world, but hey, it's something. It's better than nothing what we had, because we've been searching for months. All right, so as a Patreon, you will also have access to that. Not to mention looking at the local stock markets, which is sometimes derided, sometimes overlooked, but I think there are some great investment opportunities on the local stock market that we can sometimes overlook because it's not glamorous. Prestige Holdings, I mentioned, is one. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence, but we're going to show you how to do your due diligence. Right? So as a Patreon, you will not only have access to the real estate syndicates that we're going to form, an investing platform, the investment club, if you want to call it that, but also talking about stocks, life insurance, that sort of thing, to really create a tribe of like-minded individuals. All right, so that is our vision for how we're going to start investing, where we're going to invest, why we're investing, and exactly how we're going to access it through the Patreon. to ensure that we comply with SEC regulations. All right, so I think that's the end of the first part of my presentation. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a little 2 minutes intermission, but Yulani is going to talk a bit about our giveaways right now. So we promise you giveaways, so Yulani is going to tell us all about it.
Yeah,
And we're actually going to share with you our document. I'm going to share it on the Zoom of a PDF of a real investment opportunity that is live, that we're working on. So you could go through it while we're talking. I'll run through it quickly, and then we could go into the question and answer section. All right. And for those of you on Facebook, I'm going to share it on the Facebook live chat, so you can look out for it there, and you could also partake in the Q&A section. All right. So I'm gonna hand you over to Yulani to talk about the giveaways.
Thank you very much, Ronaldo. So now for the giveaways section, as Ronaldo would have mentioned earlier, we are going to be giving away ebooks to help you on your financial journey. These ebooks would be along the line of finance and investing. But to choose the winner, what we decided to do is to have a poll where we have several questions and you all will answer. Based on the correct answers from persons, you will then randomly choose 3 winners. These winners will be notified tomorrow, and they will also get a prize tomorrow as well. So I'm going to launch the poll right now.
All right.
Can you guys see it?
Yes. So those listening on Facebook, I just realized I can't share it in the comment section, but I will share it as a document on the Zero Facebook page. So if I could do that. So let me see if I could do that. So those in Facebook, and let me share it on the Zoom first. All right, it's loading up now in your chat. It should be loading up now in your chat on Zoom. So hopefully it doesn't take too long. Adrian Charles asking what the ROI is like. Adrian, I guess it depends on the investment opportunity. So each property is unique. Each potential ROI is unique. Right, so the document taking a little while to load, so just bear with us. Kevin Pa, no, who's asking? Second. Alright, guys. So just in case your internet connection is not very strong, what we're going to do, I'm going to post in the chat the link to access the investment proposal, so you can get it off the Google Cloud. Right, so it's both the document and the link has been shared on the Zoom. I'm going to share the link on the Facebook Live now. So, right. Right, so it's shared. Right. So those who are on the Facebook Live, you can access it there. All right. So everyone got access to the document. You could just give me a thumbs up, or you can answer with the mic if you want. All right, getting some thumbs up, so that's good. All right, I see some questions coming in. Kyle Dyer asked me some questions. Yes, Kyle, there will be a holding company for each different property. I imagine that question is going to come with the Q&A. All right, so let me share my screen again to just run through the documents. Although you have your own, so you could go through yourself. And you can take your time, read it at your own pace. There's no rush. And you could also follow up with us, message us on Facebook or through our email, r.belfort@cerobusinessgroup.com, or WhatsApp us. So, yeah. Right, so sharing screen now. Right, it doesn't seem like full screen is possible with this integrated Adobe. All right, so I'm just gonna go through it here quickly with you guys. So one of the properties that we're actively looking at is in Lambo. So for those of you who are not from today, you may not be familiar with Lambo. Lambo is one of the communities on the outskirts of Scarborough. And interestingly, or what you might be interested in, is that Lambo is very close to the Scarborough General Hospital. And in communities like ours, hospitals are some of the main economic drivers in our community. So I think that bodes well for the value of the property. Right, going forward, some people need to be muted, so just muting them. All right, and so what we're looking at, because some persons asked before, is our analyses, which we're going to go into, has an estimated cap rate of 8.9%. Cap rate is the capitalization rate, or the rate of, basically call it rate of return, and total profits over 1 to 3 whole year holding period, which we're looking at, of purchase price of $450,000. So I don't need to tell you that 66% is a great return, especially compared to what banks are offering these days. So the potential returns are substantial, but like again, this is not a guarantee, but we're going to definitely do our best to try to ensure that we hit our targets, right? So the investor proposal just has a short introduction from me about what our goals are, and then moving on. I think this page number 3, will be of interest to a lot of people because it tells you a bit about how we want the deals to be structured. It mentions the A and B class shares, and you see below it says projected investment, projected returns. I like to give persons a range, so we have a best case and a worst case scenario. So we're looking at a range of between 20 and 60% in the best case and worst case scenarios. I know initially it's at 66%, but I like to, give a little bit extra or take off a little bit just in case, just to temper even the best case scenarios. Because, we have unforeseen circumstances popping up. So we're looking at a 20 to 60% return as we're looking at. And the structure minimum investment is $15,000. And how we came over that number, we divided the purchase price by 35 and you get $15,000. Because the maximum amount of persons allowed to invest in a private listing is 35, that is how we come up with that number. That said, that does not mean that you cannot invest more if you so desire. And I'll be honest with you, it's a lot easier to work with a smaller number of persons than a large number of persons. So we will try to be, equitable in how we go forward with working with persons. But ideally, it will be good for us to work with us. It's less drama, well, not drama, but less involved to work with a smaller group of persons than a large. All right, but the minimum investment opportunity we're looking at is $15,000, and I think that will be, within reach for most persons who are looking for investments and not sure where to get good returns in this market because there are not many avenues to get a good return in today's market, right? And the equity and the investment format we're going to use is equity as opposed to debt. But for right now, we're only going with equity financing and not debt financing, and I guess we could have that talk about debt financing at a later time, right? So it also touches on some of the benefits of joining the Patreon and joining the Smart Money team, which is the official name for all the persons involved in Zero and all our supporters and our fellow investors, right? Well, you know about us and our team already. And the property summary. This is where the team, I guess, earns their money doing an investment analysis. It touches on the property. The property is located on outskirts of Scarborough, in the village of Lambo. It is on the south of the Claude-Noel Highway, in one of the premier private residential developments. Well, there's only one premier development, 2 in Lambo. So persons who are familiar with the area know exactly where it is. And it also mentions some community-related features that you would not know unless you're from Tobago. So it's close to the Scarborough General Hospital, meaning there's a captive audience or captive market of medical professionals who need housing. And I have a couple of friends who was talking about just this week and talking about the cost of housing and that sort of stuff for some of the medical practitioners, right? It also talks a bit about the site, some of the possible ways you could have added appreciation. And Laura Pascal is on the chat giving away exactly where the property is located, which I do not appreciate. Thank you, Laura. Right. Also goes on to more property features. So the great thing about this property is that utilities are already in place. It's freehold versus leasehold, which is a topic that we've talked about in the past. And it has residential zoning. And we're actually working with Town & Country now to see if we can get multi-family residential approval, which is a game changer in terms of marketability and income producing potential for the property. Right, some more on the community features. It's close to the hospital, close to quite a few schools, both primary and secondary. And just for comparison, we included a comparable for a property nearby, and the value this property that we're going after is way undervalued when it's size up next to a comparable property nearby. So that is what we were saying about investing. As I said before, it's not how many times you say yes, but how many times you say no. You have to keep saying no until you come onto a deal that you will be a fool to ignore. And at this stage, I think I would be a fool to ignore this deal, because the a property right next door to it, a little bit bigger, but right next door to it is valued almost 40% more. The asking price is 40% more than what they are asking about or thereabouts. So I think it would be when you invest buying a property or making an investment, 40% off what is the intrinsic value of the property or market value of the property. I think you're in the right direction, because you have to take a lot of messing up to mess up an investment where you have a steep discount like that. Right? So we also talk about the exit strategy, because we've talked about entering, how we plan to enter it, but how we plan to exit. The exit strategy, like I said, the holding period, or how long we'll have you guys money tied up in this holding company, will vary between 1 and 3 years. Ideally, we'll wait for ideal market conditions, and in this case, that will mean post-COVID, because TNT is going through severe economic strain. Personally, I think it's a lot worse than what the politicians tell us and what the CSO tells us. Inflation is a big problem, and I work in the food industry also, so I know that food inflation is a problem. So I think that the best time to buy or come up with here is when the economy rebounds a bit. So we're looking at 1 to 3 years holding period. So this is not a piggy bank. This is not stock, so you could go in and out quickly. But if you have some money lying around that you want to put to work, this could be a good place to put it to work. Get some money coming in, and we're going to talk about how we plan to get that money coming in, because raw land is not, people don't often associate raw land with income generation. Right? We also talk about the risk assessments and how we plan to mitigate some of those risk assessments. Right? Now, the financial summary talks about 2 scenarios, when one is an all cash purchase and one is a purchase with some financing at 80% financing. Typically, your returns are much higher when you use debt or leverage, but at this stage, I prefer not to do that until we, I guess, a bit more sophisticated and develop, more trust amongst our clients before we go into the realm of dabbling in, getting bank financing. So hopefully we could do an all cash purchase, right? And while the returns might be higher with debt financing, I feel more comfortable with just pure cash equity positions, right? Now, income generation. As you would read in the first line, the subject parcel of land presents a great opportunity, as it can potentially produce positive cash flow through renting, billboard advertising. Now, as I said before, you have to be innovative in your thinking in order to be a good investor. And while most people think of properties close to the highway as a negative, with my investment cap on, I realized that this could actually be a positive. So if you buy raw land and you put up a billboard on it and you rent out that billboard space, that billboard rental income can be going to our investors while we wait for the exit strategy and while the property appreciates in value. So that is our strategy that we plan to use to help bring in income without, having massive cash outlay, like to develop a property and whatnot. And moving on. Right. So the last couple pages of the last 4 pages, or the 4 to the last 5 pages, deals with the assumptions that we've made in the 2 different scenarios, the cash purchase scenario and the finance purchase scenario. So I want you guys, in your time, maybe we could discuss it later today, or when you have time, we could discuss how, what each of these values means, because there are some assumptions that we make, like the potential income, the vacancy rates, which is how often the billboards will be rented, the taxes. Well, taxes, we know what the taxes will be, and the legal fees and that sort of thing. So it takes into consideration both the legal fees, taxes, when the land taxes come back on stream, or property taxes, I should say. And well, for land like this, you don't really need insurance, so I don't think we put anything in insurance. So this is, we did this mock-up with our real estate calculator, our rental property calculator that we typically use when investing. So this is the breakdown. So these financial pages are probably the most important pages of this document, so I want everyone to go through it. So what we're looking at here are the assumptions. So we're assuming a closing cost of $10,000. $10,000, I can't even see properly. Yeah, I think it's $10,000, which will cover the legal fees and that sort of thing, and getting stamp duty organized, getting what else you have to do? You have to PI evaluator and that sort of thing. And it also looks at the rental income, vacancy rate, management fees, because you have to pay management fees for the advertising companies, to managing the advertising companies who will potentially be renting the billboard space, and some of the other costs, maintenance costs, right? And lastly, each investment opportunity that we look at, we give it a rating out of 5 stars. This property got a 4 out of 5 rating on the CIRO scale, which is quite good. Up to date, we've never had a 5-star rating. I think we had a 4.5. I could be wrong. But I think we had 1 4.5. But 4, trust me, 4 is a great rating from us, because we are very hard taskmasters. So with that said, I'm gonna stop the presentation, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice. So we're gonna jump straight into the question and answer section, so you can ask us any questions that you might have, and I will try my best, and Yolanda will try her best, and the other team members to answer them, and let's have a discussion. All right, so the floor is open. Feel free to turn on your mic, ask a question. If you're shy, you can put it in the chat, although I prefer, a dialogue. So the floor is yours. No questions. All right. So in the chat, we have Kevin Pascal asking, are shareholders barred from purchasing parts of the property? Okay. So in the interest of, I guess, transparency and not having a conflict of interest, we have, before we buy a property, we will have a proposed selling price. Now, in the documents that we just went through, we have, if you look on the second to last page, for example, it has a sell price, or a target sell price, of $665,000, right? So it's not a hard and fast value, but I think that is where we're aiming to sell the property at, based on our assumptions on how the property will appreciate in value, and where the market will be in 1 to 3 years, maybe 4 years if we need extra time. So the idea is that, I guess once someone who might be an investor, if they are willing to purchase a property at the target price, or near the target price, preferably at the target price or higher, then I think that is a discussion that we can entertain once, but I guess it has to be transparent. We have to know that this is our target price that we're targeting at. Of course, we may have to examine where the market is at that point in time. Hopefully the market is in a much better, healthier place, and 665 will be a good target selling price. So I guess it's both an art and a science, knowing where to exit, and I think that is where the management team comes in to provide some, scientifically grounded information on what a good target selling price is at that point in time when you're looking to exit. All right, so I hope that answers the question, Kevin. So from Kyle Dyer is asking, hi Kyle, for each property, there would be a different holding company. Yes, so each property that we're looking at, we're going to have a separate holding company. So you could be invested in one property, in 2, 3, 5, all of them if you want, or not. But I must say that it's advisable to not put all the eggs in one basket. Let's say you have 10,000 to spend to invest. I think it's better to spread your risk around and maybe split that in two and invest 5,000, than to put all your potential investment income into one property or one investment. It doesn't matter what type of investment. But I believe to protect yourself, you need to spread your risk a bit by diversifying. All right.
Mr. Bell, good night, everyone. My question is, what is the pros and cons of the investment? Or
Well, of real estate in general, or in this specific investment that we're talking about?
this specific one?
All right, let me deal with the pros first. I suppose that's easier. One, you're in a great location. You're less than 5 minutes away from the hospital, and with the hospital moving to where it is now in Signal Hill, like I said, hospitals are a major economic driver in our society in Tobago. We're not like the US, where you have like Walt Disney World being an economic driver. All economic drivers are much smaller and less glamorous. So we talk about hospitals, universities like UB, which is why you see a lot of rental properties proliferating in the St. Augustine Puna area. Because if you look at an old map of the East-West Corridor, where UB was actually farmland. But when UB was created, that became an economic driver that drove development in the area. So it attracted more and more people. So our idea is to try to tie ourselves to economic drivers to ensure that we have a good return. So that's one of the pros, that it's close to our economic driver. It's also close to, not too far away from Scarborough, which means it's convenient for, let's say, the end buyer who may want to develop the property more. You're quite close to Scarborough. You're also not too far away from the west of Tobago, which is, again, location is a big part of the real estate mantra. And the property is quite affordable. So on the cons, there's always a risk. Now, we could have grand ideas of putting up billboards to bring in income one time, but nobody might read the billboard. So that is a risk. What are the risks? Well, we're currently in discussions to get approval from Town and Country to put up billboards. A lot of people don't do that in TNT. They just put up a billboard if they have a piece of land, but by rights, you should get the permission of Town and Country. And if you're in Trinidad, your municipal corporation, I believe, also has to give approval. But we are very lawless people, but we're trying to do things here at Zero the right way. So we're in the process of getting approvals for that. What other cons are there? I prefer not to use the word cons, but maybe risks. Some of the other risks is that you're never in control of who your neighbors are. So your neighbor could potentially come in and do something that might drive down the value of your property. For instance, if they set up a garage next to you, that sort of thing, that could drive down the value of the property. But luckily, we have countermeasures for that. So you can actually report something like that to Town and Country, and they're supposed to issue a cease and desist. That's what they're supposed to do. How effective they are is, I don't have enough experience to speak on that. But there are some mitigating actions for those sort of those potential challenges that can arise. So I hope that helps.
So to be honest, I joined the meeting a bit late, right?
Okay.
And I've heard about this through listening to you on Facebook. So, just to get the full idea of, okay, I know, just to get the full concept, would you be able to, could you just summarize for me to get a better understanding as to what's taking place? I kind of lost a bit.
No problem.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll do one better. After today's session, I'm going to send you the because this is Clint James, right? I think I recognize voice.
Correct.
Right. So I'm going to send you a clipping, well, the recording of today's session, so you can listen to the whole thing at your leisure. But to provide a brief synopsis, we're launching today the investment division. We're going to do go into real estate syndication, where we're going to form whenever we come across a property that we find interesting and may be potentially profitable to go after, we plan to follow the Security and Exchange Commission guidelines for a private listing. So we're going to have a private listing or offering of securities where we could have a maximum of 35 persons involved in the investment opportunity, preferably a smaller group, but the maximum is 35. And we're going to purchase the property and issue shares to those persons, those 35 or how many other people buy the property, put together to buy the property. Now, as a shareholder, you'll be entitled to a share of the income coming in as a Class B shareholder, whereas the Class A shareholders, which are the management team, will not be entitled to income unless it's a profitable venture. So I guess that's the incentive so that I can do my work and I do the shares. Right? What else is there? Right? And I guess the idea that we touched on is for persons to try to spread their risk and not put all the eggs in one basket. And yeah, so we're going to comply with the SEC rules. We cannot market the investments. We could only, I guess, talk about it generally. And so what we're going to be doing is creating a Patreon platform. In fact, our Patreon is already created, and I think Yulani will post in the Zoom the access, the link to our Patreon, so you can get access to all the investment opportunities that we have, plus all the marketing video, all the smart money tip videos that we do, and also the upcoming training course on how to invest in stocks, both locally and internationally. Right, so I hope that was a good synopsis, but like I said, we'll send you the recordings. Shoot soon.
Thank you.
Question here.
Look forward to.
Yeah. Can you identify yourself, sir?
Pleasant night, everyone. This is Clayton Matt. Big brother Ronaldo, what are you doing?
I'm great, sir.
All right. Earlier you spoke of reaching a critical mass of like-minded individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I believe people in just real estate specifically. Expand on that a little. Companies. Is there a limit to the amount of companies that you can set up at any given time? And as for the 35 people, it sounds more like it's 35 shares in, or 35 sets of shares in the holding company. So is it that one person could access 2 of the shares, or can 2 people split one between them? So yeah, over to you.
All right. So the middle part of what you said was a bit choppy. Can you repeat that?
About the holding companies, I believe.
I honestly don't know because I didn't hear it.
All right. Well, I was asking if there is a limit to the number of holding companies you can set up. And also with the 35 people, it sounds more to me like if it's 35 shares that you can sell in one holding company or one property. So what I wanted to know is it possible for one person to have 2 of these 35 shares, and also can 2 people split one between them? So let us say a husband and a wife, the share is 50,000, so they want to go in 7.5 each. Can that happen?
Okay. All right. So the limitation is not so much on the value of the shares, but on the number of persons. So you could have you can issue 1 million shares if you want. Once you have maximum of 35 people involved. Now the share allocation can be structured in such a way where you have persons having let's say you issue 1,000,000 shares. You can have someone having 100,000 shares and someone having, yes, 1,000,000 divided by 35 is how much? I don't know how much that is. Whatever figure that is the minimum that one person can buy. But you
Right.
can have different share. One person can have more than one share, is what I guess I'm trying to say.
Right,
But
right.
once you do have more than 35 persons total, so husband and wife cannot share. I guess cannot.
Cannot split
Oh,
a
hold
share
on a
between
second.
them.
They cannot split a share between them, but they can have their own shares equally. And they could
Right.
each have their own shares, I should say. Right?
Right, right.
And the value of those shares depends on, I guess, all discretion.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So you remember the first question, right? And have
No, hit me
one
with
more to ask. The first
the
one
holding
was
companies.
right. The first one was the critical mass of like-minded individuals. I believe you said interested in real estate. I think you said we need to achieve a critical mass in terms of the number of people. Could you expand on that a little? Do you have a figure in mind or something like that?
All right, just give me 1 second, right? Because I need to plug in my laptop before it dies. So just give me 1 second.
No problem.
Right. Back from that short commercial break. All right. So the critical mass is not so much related to what is it, the investment opportunities we have. That is more of honestly a cry from deep within our soul that we don't have people in Trinidad and Tobago who know about money, who care about finances, and interested in learning about it. So is really, I think it will be beneficial to form a community of like-minded people. Not for this, because me and two people with some millions to spare, we could invest in, we could buy all these properties. But I don't think that will solve the more societal problem of
Right.
financial literacy, because that is one of the main aims of the media division of the company, to help promote financial literacy. So that is more, I guess, of a bright or broader aim at zero, but it does not really relate to, I guess, this investment thing. It's just one of our goals to help promote financial literacy more broadly and stop old talk. Let me talk about businesses. Let me talk about the fact that the S&P 500 dropped by 10% this week and just rebounded one time. Let me talk about LVMH, the company that owns Louis Vuitton, Moet and Hennessy, increasing in value by about 30% since the pandemic started, whereas other companies dropping in value. LVMH buying. Well, people think that Jay-Z make a big play with LVMH, but LVMH, they really got the better deal in partnering with them. They say partner, but they bought I think it's a 50% stake in Ace of Spades. Let me start having them kind of discussions than talking, washing name down the street and them kind of thing. So there's more of a personal grievance that I have with my wonderful TNT people. And regarding the idea of the holding companies, each holding company by law is separate and independent of each other. So what happens in one does not have an effect in what happens in the other. They are all separate institutions. I mean, separate organizations. It's like being a separate individual, a separate person.
All right. And the management team that would be basically responsible for any financial dealings that surrounds a holding company, do they make the decisions with regard to what direction you go with the property? Let us say you decide that you want to keep a hold of it, develop it, and start putting in some apartments, as opposed to simply holding it until it appreciates enough in value and then reselling. Is the management team fully responsible for that, or do the investors have some say in what direction the property goes, or the use of the property goes?
All right. So the first I guess source of direction of where we go will be based on the investment agreement that we come up with and is signed before closing on the property. So if in our heads we decide that, okay, I think the best thing for us to do is to put up these billboards and sell this property, that is what our goal is going to be. Now, things may change and other opportunities may arise that may warrant, or some people believe may warrant a change. But I think that is where I guess the art of investing comes in that if we see, okay, there's an opportunity to do something else on the property, as a responsible, I guess I would be the principal investor in this case. I would then have to seek the advice and the permission of the other shareholders to say, okay, this is the original course, but I think we should deviate from it.
Okay.
Now, if there's consensus, fine, we'll go ahead. If not, then it will be up to the management team to then decide where to go. And in the investment agreement, one of the clauses that we have is that persons can essentially enact a clause to trigger selling their shares. So they could, if they say, all right, here, I want to build a hotel, me and part of that. Well, they just give me my money or my returns, and I'll do what I want. There will be that opportunity to sell your shares at what would be deemed by an independent arbitrator to be market value, and so you can get your returns that way. So sell it to either another pre-existing shareholder or maybe someone else on the outside. But one of the clauses we put in the investors agreement is that investors in the holding company have to choose preference rather than an outside investor.
All right.
So that is one potential method to let off some steam in terms of people who want to get out in case we need to leave, in case we decide to leave a path.
All right. I have more question, and then I will play the way for others. All right. Based on my understanding, each holding company is set up separate and aside from Zero Business Group, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Right. So is there opportunity now? And if not, will there be opportunity in the future for individuals who are interested to invest in Zero Business Group itself?
That's a great question. Listen, I often daydream that one day to list Zero on the TNT Stock Exchange as a publicly listed company. So that would be separate apart from any holding company. But that is a long ways off because it takes time to develop that level of reputation, and not to mention the compliance costs involved in listing on the TNT Stock Exchange is very, very high.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, they're making it easier for you. In fact, they're practically begging companies to get listed on the stock exchange right now. But that's a long-term goal. In terms of private sales of Zero stocks, I have no such inclinations at the moment, but who knows what could happen in the future.
Right. All right then. Thank you for answering, and over to the rest of you guys. Sorry to take up so much time.
Thank you, Mr.
Ronaldo.
Hello, Miss Belfort.
I missed part of your presentation. I mean, I wasn't hearing all of it. I don't know if you noticed that I logged out at one point because I had a showing to go, do. So I did that quickly, and ironically, it was a co-op unit that is being sold that I took my client to. All right. But with that said, are you sending the recording to all attendees or just persons who requested?
So usually what we do is we create clips of the presentation and we share it on social media, and eventually, like about a month or so afterwards, we usually post the entire thing. But if persons want the entire thing beforehand, you could just mention it in the chat, and we could send it to everyone who requested the entire recording.
Okay, so I will request it because there was some topics that I'm really interested in, and it's kind of like up my alley. So yeah,
Yep.
And
okay.
Probably to do in Trinidad and Tobago, in particular. So.
Okay.
All right,
man. So we'll get that organized. Yes,
Great job.
Thank you, man.
All right, good night. I have a question as well. If I'm understanding this correct, this is Kyle speaking, by the way. If I'm understanding this correctly, when persons contribute the money to buy into it, it's used to purchase the property, right?
That's
What
correct.
happens if not enough people contribute or not enough people buy into it? How does that scenario play out?
Okay. Well, in that case, we will have to dissolve the company and return the funds. So it's a bit of a juggling act in that I, as the principal investor, I have to put down the deposits because the only way you can sign a purchase agreement is you need to put some skin in the game and put down a deposit before someone could essentially, as you put your name on it, reserve the property for you. So at zero, that means we have to take on quite a bit of risk in that we don't have to to take on some risk in putting down the deposit, which is usually 10%. I guess that's also one of the poll questions, by the way. So I would have to gauge the situation to see if it's likely for us to raise the amount. If it is, then great. But if we don't get enough, those persons will be reimbursed, and unfortunately, I guess that deposit might be forfeited. But that's one of the risks of investing, and so. But there's also ways to mitigate that, and I'm not in the business of losing money. So I have some strategies to help mitigate that risk.
Okay, then, all right.
All right. And I could tell you now, I could tell all of my business. So I was fortunate and blessed enough to buy my first property at 28, or 27 or 28, around there. That's actually where I'm recording now. And God has really blessed me. And so it was essentially a duplex. So meaning two properties in one. So I live in one half and I rent out the other half. So that's what we call house hacking, in that the rent essentially helps pay the mortgage. And so I was very deliberate in purchasing my first property with a little push from my mom, who is honestly more than a push. But I think that was great insight in that. So now, after 3 years of stabilizing property, I'm actually in the process of refinancing, doing a cash out refinance, meaning the equity that has been built up in the property, given that it's increase in value, I'm in the process of getting that money out through a cash out refinance. So the idea is that this property that we're going after, just in case nobody else wants to pitch up with me to buy this property in Lambo, I will have enough money to buy it myself without having anybody involved. So that's how I personally plan to mitigate this risk, because we can talk all this nice stuff, but nobody wants to invest with me and with us at zero, but that's fine. So that is one of the ways I plan to mitigate ours. And if you know me, you know I'm an open book. You know I'll provide any documentation or any information or answer any questions you provide. So I've given you a bit of an insight into what is going on in the background right now. And yeah, so hopefully that puts your mind at ease of it.
Hi, good night. I have a question. It's a follow-up based on the question that was asked previously. You hear me clearly?
Yeah, but can you just introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. My name is Kalisha Roberts, right?
Kalisha.
So my question is, right, in terms of the 35 persons, right? So if it's
Yeah.
a situation where you don't have 35 persons, so let's say, for example, you have 30 persons and these persons are still interested in investing in the property, but that means that the initial investment of the 15,000 is going to be more. So let's say, for example, it goes to 20 or 18 or so forth. Is that something that is possible? Because the way how you spoke it, while it seemed as though if it's not 35, then it's not possible for the group to go ahead and invest in the property. But if you have less
No.
persons and let's say the persons are actually interested in going ahead with it, would that be possible?
Okay, so my apologies if that is the message that came across or was conveyed, but it's not actually like that. So what I was trying to convey is that the maximum number of persons who can invest in a holding company is 35. So it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 33, it could be 20, it could be 35. I mean, yeah, it could be 35, but no more. So the 35 is an upper limit, it's not a lower limit, right? So my apologies if that was not clear. So Apart from the restrictions on the upper limit of how many persons can invest in a property, the only other restriction is how much money you're actually able to raise. All right. So it could be, to answer the question, it could be 20, it could be 90, it could be 18. Once they have raised the required amount of capital, it does not matter how many persons are involved. Once you do not cross the 35 threshold as mandated by the SEC.
Okay, good. Thanks for
Is that
answering.
clear? All right.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Hi, good night. I'm Allison. Just asking, so what is, I don't know if you addressed this question before, but what is the minimum that someone can invest in within the holding?
All right. So the SEC does not prescribe any maximums or minimums in terms of how much can be invested. But I guess in the sake of fairness, what we're aiming at a minimum will be the capital required. Let's say the capital required is $350,000. If we divide that by 35, then we're looking at a minimum of $10,000. So that is what we would recommend as the minimum, and that is what we would ask for as the minimum at zero, which would be all right. But legally, that does not have to be the minimum. It could be $1. Somebody could invest $1, but in the sake of the best interest and in terms of being equitable, I don't think it would be wise for us to have a scenario where we have someone putting in a tiny amount, like $1, like I said, just to use a figure, versus 10,000. So what we're looking at as the floor is the capital required divided by 35. All right?
Thank you.
No problem. It seems that 35 figure keep popping up. So I'm hopeful that that was clear on how it works. What I can do also is I'm going to share it in the Zoom right now. Let me find it on my computer. The actual SEC guidelines on limited offerings. Let me see if I can share it. File, your computer, presentation. Just bear with me, guys. Find it. Investments. SEC. All right, so it's loading up now. Sent successfully. Guidelines on the offering and distribution of private offerings. I think that's the correct one. Just make sure. All right, so yeah, that's one. I'm also going to send you another one, which is more understandable, using more layman's terms. The second one, registration of securities in Trinidad and Tobago, limited offerings, which is what we're doing here. So honestly, that one is a lot easier to understand, a lot less legalese. Right, so I sent the second one, and that one is a lot easier to understand. All right, so running through quickly, we have a question from Gerald Sam. Is my share considered an asset and passed on to someone of my choice in case something happens to me before the actual sale of the property? Great question, and yes, you will be required to name a beneficiary just in case something untoward happens, so that that person will be the recipient of your share in the holding company. All right. All right. Any other questions?
Hi,
Right.
this is Marissa here.
Hi, Marissa.
I want to get a little more information on how the management team is selected, how are persons selected to be a part of the management team, and also why is the property so heavily discounted in terms of the price? Could you give us some idea into that?
All right. The second one is a lot easier to answer. And it's because I don't think the person understands how valuable the property is. It is a property that was, I guess, inherited. And unfortunately, sometimes, despite our best intentions of leaving a legacy, I don't think this generation coming afterwards appreciates the value of whatever we leave for them. And so, yeah, one man's trash is another man's treasure. All right. And so the first question, though, can you just jump in on what the first question was, though?
With regards to the management team?
All right. So the management team will be structured in such a way that we will have representation not only from CIRO. So the CIRO business group will be the primary, I guess, managers. Both myself as a managing director will have a big role to play in the decision making and the property management. But we also have a group of investment advisors that we're putting together, persons with experience, persons with a good track record, and ultimately persons who are not afraid to tell me no or to tell me when they disagree. Because I think it's important to have persons who have strong convictions and don't agree, are not yes men. Apart from that, there's also will be the opportunity for persons who are, some of the passive investors coming on stream to have representation on the management team, because you will have to set up a board to manage each of the holding companies. I don't imagine that it will be an owner's task to be on the board, but I think it will be good from a standpoint of fair representation to have someone or maybe even more than one person on each holding company to represent the interests of those persons who are more passive investors in the property. So there will be persons from CIRO, both directly and part of our investment panel or investment advisors, plus persons who are directly invested in our property to have a say in the direction of where things are going.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Great question. All right. Daviana Wilshire asks, what are the requirements to be a shareholder, job letter, pay slip, etc.? Yes. So apart from signing the investor agreement, you will have to provide some documentation to satisfy our obligations from an FIU standpoint, because as I said before, CIRO is registered with the Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIU, and we're also registered brokers with AREA. We have to ensure that all funds coming into CIRO are not tainted by money laundering and also tainted by terrorist financing. So you will have to provide some disclosure of the source of funds, and you also have to just tick a little box to say, I am not a terrorist. I did not get this money from terrorist financing. I'm not involved in money laundering, to protect us from an FIU standpoint and also to protect all the other investors. Right? So these are just some of the other documents that we provided to guarantee that. All right. So I think I have some more questions coming in. I just saw something from Kevin. I'm not seeing it anymore. All right, folks. Any other questions? It's going up on almost 2 hours now. We're at it, man. Time flies when you're having fun. All right. Alicia Joseph asks, so there are no hidden fees, costs on your investment in the property. All right. So the idea, Alicia, is that the property will be income producing, and so the hope is that there will be no additional requirements for capital injections from the investors. So that's why we're not going after properties that we don't see could generate some reasonable income to protect against that. No, like I said, nothing is guaranteed, and so I'm hoping that it never becomes necessary, but it's also a provision for what we call a capital call or capital request, where we may need to request, where it's a provision just in case you need to request additional income for whatever reason. But that could be handled in different ways. Once there's consensus, all of the investors can pool to raise any additional capital that may be required for whatever reason, I don't know, for repairs or some incident that was not considered. Or we can issue additional shares to bring in additional investors. Once, of course, you don't hit that 35% limits. All right. So I hope that covers the cost question. I should also mention that there'll also be associated costs involved when purchasing the property. So there will be administrative costs because you have to pay for the lawyers, you have to pay for stamp duty, all those things need to be borne. So, but that will be borne equally amongst all the investors. So you have to keep in mind that there will be some fees attached. The legal fees will need to be added on to whatever equity you're going to be purchasing. So that is a consideration, but ultimately that will be a smaller portion, a very small portion, sorry, compared to what will be invested in equity. All right. Right. Kalisha Roberts asking about the same legal fees. Yes, Kalisha. So when we provide a quote to you as a potential investor when signing the investor agreement, the legal fees will also be included in there. So you will see clearly what is equity investment versus what is legal fees. And yeah, well, you can't get away from paying fees, so we have to pay them. All right. Daryl Sky saying once we get approval for the billboard, we'll have to invest additional funds, I assume. So Daryl, the idea is that all of those things will be in place, so we know exactly what the fees will be coming in before we even purchase the property. So we know what will be needed for purchasing property and to set up the billboards. Preferably, we could do it even before closing the property. But the hope is that the money that comes in from rental of the billboards, in this case, so the property that we're looking at in Lambo, will cover not only those fees, but provide steady income for you going forward. All right. Right. And there is also the opportunity that within reason, Zero Business Group can cover some of the upfront costs, like for instance, the set up the billboard, and then be reimbursed afterwards. I'm comfortable with that, provided that everyone is on the same page. Yep, so that should be fine. All right. Kyle Dyer asked how soon is this happening? Kyle, well, I'm hoping that in a matter of weeks that we can get the ball rolling on this initial property. So stay tuned for more information, but we're looking at weeks. All right. So a lot of people messaging me right now. Kiyoda Garo asking, what's the minimum investment? All right, Kiyon. So just to reiterate, because I know you came in a little bit late. So for a private listing, the SEC mandates that you could have only a maximum of 35 people for each private listing of shares. And so we're looking at a self-prescribed minimum of 1/35th, or the capital price divided by 35 as our minimum investment. So that is not, the minimum is not legislated by law, but we would be mandated by us here at CIRO. So that's what we're looking at the minimum. So whatever the investment capital requirements are divided by 35, and that's what we're looking at as the investment minimum. I'm not sure if it's possible, Keon, for you to see the documents that were shared in the chat before, but we listed some of the, at least one of the investment opportunities we're looking at, in addition to a couple of the SEC guidelines. And so that breaks down that whole 35 person cap. But if it's not visible for you, I could always share that with you afterwards. All right. All right. Yes, and I will send you the recording. All right. All right, folks. So we're heading up to 9:02. So last two questions. But if we have any other burning questions that we don't catch in the last two questions, you can always follow up with us via email, via Facebook, Instagram page, don't worry now, but email, Facebook, WhatsApp. You can WhatsApp me personally at 688-7714, or at the CIRO hotline at 757-2476. All right. All right, so I take that deafening silence as all the questions being satisfied.
Good day.
Good day, sir.
Hi, I am Adrian. I'm interested, firstly. Question. Let's say I invest and others invest and we purchase that property or some other property that has value, and well, it doesn't have, we didn't take out any loans or so, and you use that property as equity to purchase another deal or something. Would the shareholders in the first deal be profiting from that second deal?
I think what you're describing there is extremely dangerous, and would also not be possible in our scenario, in this scenario, because the structure that we're going to have is that each holding company or each investment opportunity is separate. It's like a totally different thing. It's like, this is Trinidad, this is Cuba. Two totally different structures, two different legal structures. So a sort of arrangement like that will not be possible, especially given that we're going to have persons from the general passive investors, who I call them, community, on the management committee of each holding company, to protect everyone's, well, to protect their interests and by extension the interests of the other passive investors. So that's, I guess, a check and balance against something like that happening. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question. But good question. All right, we have time for one more. If anyone has any other burning questions that they want to ask. All right, and Yulani just posted the office number again in the chat, 757-2476, or to make it easier to remember, 750. Again, 75 SCIRO. I forgot how to spell zero for a second there. 750 SCIRO. And yeah. All right, so Nejma Leon's Cameo asking if Patreon is mandatory. Yes, it is, Nejma. Because we cannot advertise the marketing opportunities publicly, and without being in violation of SEC rules, we're using the Patreon to I guess give us some cover, because technically we won't be advertising. That will be persons, we have universal human rights for self-association, the rights of associating who you want to. And so that is what we're going to be using to manage the process. And just in case you didn't hear about it, we're going to be providing a lot of value. So in case you're not familiar with Zero, those of you who are can testify that we provide weekly smart money tips on finance, on business, on life. And we're going to ramp that up for all our Patreon subscribers. So you're going to have info to all our smart money tips. We're also going to have live calls where we're going to be discussing investment opportunities, not only in real estate, but on the local and international stock markets, and how we're going to manage that, I guess, is through Zero. Through the Patreon. And again, the Patreon is inexpensive. Is the lowest tier is $1. I believe I have the link for the Patreon here. I'm going to put that in the Zoom so you can access the Patreon. So, Netflix is good. You get entertainment from Netflix, but Netflix not going to put any money in your pocket. In fact, it might take away some. So, I hope that person see it as an investment in their future and in their financial well-being. And I just posted the Patreon link in the general chat. So it's there now, right? And Yulani already posted it, right? And she also posted my private cell number, 688-7714. Please do not abuse it. Don't call me any weird hours of the night. In fact, it's actually better to contact me via WhatsApp because I'm more likely to respond faster there. So feel free to shoot me on WhatsApp and I'll respond to you in no time at all, right? Again, please don't abuse my private. Right. I think that's about it. Right. So folks, I am exhausted. I hope though that you would have really enjoyed the presentation here today and have a clear understanding of where we want to go. I see a lot of persons had a lot of questions leading up to this launch, and I hope that we were able to answer it. It was just too many people who can answer everyone all the time, but I think that this I hope that this answers all the questions. And like I said, going forward, it's a dialogue that we could continue having to ensure that everyone is on the same page going forward. And I'm confident that we can do something really special in Trinidad and Tobago, because this sort of thing has not been attempted on a large scale before. And honestly, the sky is the limit, and I intend on reaching for the skies. So thank you for your time. Hope I didn't bore you too much. But to close off, I will pass you on to Yulani to, I guess, give you a few closing remarks from us at Zero, and I guess how to get in touch with us again, and a bit more about what we will offer on the Patreon and how we're going to be managing it going forward.
Good night again, everyone. Thank you very much for attending, participating by engaging in the question and answer, and also staying for the entire launch of the investment vision.
Marathon.
So as I would have mentioned in the chat earlier, I gave all the information regarding the office number, which is 757-2476. You can also contact us via email at info@zerobusinessgroup.com. And you can visit our website, and we are also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
All right.
Now, am I missing anything?
All right, no. So somebody, Alicia Joseph, asking who won the competition. So Alicia, we're going to announce that later on tonight or maybe tomorrow. So we're going to go through the responses, and the 3 top persons who got the most responses will be in the recipient of an ebook. I think the 3 that you identified are The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Cashflow Quadrant. So hopefully you might be one of the lucky winners. Right? All right, guys. So thanks for attending, and I hope that everyone has a restful night. God willing, and God bless. So signing off, but it's not gonna log off the Zoom. We're gonna keep the Zoom up just in case anybody wants to chat. I see some people in here that I need to talk to, so you could chat informally with anybody if you need to. I need to talk to 1 or 2 people here, but this is the end of our presentation. So thanks for attending.
Hi everyone. For today's Smart Money clip, we will show you how to do research on a company before investing, using our trading platform of choice, eToro. To do this, open up the eToro app and type in the name of the company you're interested in. In this case, it's Tesla. Navigate your way to the Stats tab. Here you will find very pertinent information, like Tesla's income statement, and its balance sheet. By the way, drop us a comment if you want us to do a video on what each of these statistics means, and how to interpret them. The tab also has some visuals, and some notes on the company can be found below. However, the most often overlooked, but richest source of in-depth information is right here. In the Investor Relations link, click on it, and it will take you to Tesla's Investor Relations page. Here you will find recent statutory filings. You'll also get info on the financial history of the company. Depending on your assessment, you can then buy or short stock in the company with a few clicks. So that's it for our video today, Smart Money team. Remember to drop us a like if you enjoyed the video. And feel free to suggest any topics you want us to cover.
Hey again, Smart Money team. Today we're going to touch on your mindset when investing in real estate. Your mindset when investing in real estate should really be the opposite of when buying a property to live in as a primary residence. Now, in contrast to when buying a property to live in, the idea when investing in a property is that you try to get almost the worst property on the best street. So the idea is that you force appreciation of the value of the property when you do repairs and do maintenance, do renovations, so that the after repair value of the property will increase and match that of the surrounding areas. So the bigger the difference between the value of the property when you buy it to when you finish repairs helps ensure that you recoup your returns. And those are one of the techniques that we use to maximize on our investments. And if you're interested in investing with us, get in touch with us today and start your investing journey.